Welcome back, y'all. It's T-Ty back with another video review of Painkiller Season 1. I think it's the only season, but this is episode 2. But first, thank y'all for tuning in, clicking on this video. Shout out to Enox. He left a video comment saying how my volume needs to be a little more louder, so I put these AirPods in. So hopefully you guys can hear me. All right, so let's get into episode 2. Let's go. So first, they start the episode off letting you know this disclosure. This is based on true events, but you know they've been exaggerated to fit the storylines. So we have a 42-year-old. Her name is Casey. So rest in peace, Casey. She was known to be a sweet sparkle for the family. So rest in peace to her. She actually passed away from overdosing on Oxycontin. So the episode opens up where Richard is trying to find promotion ways to get his Oxycontin out to different doctors and stuff. So he do doctor cards. Basically they're ad cards. He's trying to find promotion. So when you do go to the Ox office, you get to see on the board they're certified doctors and all that kind of stuff. So basically his ideology is it doesn't matter if it's true or not. If you say it, people are just gonna believe it, which is 9 times out of 10 true. Because if you just say something, most people just take your word for it, right? So Richard is still going through these phases where he's seeing his uncle Arthur, you know, flashback and come into his life, because he seemed to be like a big influence on what he's doing, especially taking over the family business, right? So being that he's trying to find promotions, he got Brittany and Shannon. They're driving around town, different doctors' offices, heckling the doctors to basically, you know, why aren't you selling Oxycontin? Why aren't you promoting Oxycontin here? Why aren't you prescribing it to the patients? They're really going to need it. Why would you, you know, deprive them from it? So he basically like, you know, I don't need none of that. And he sees Shannon, she's like a fresh face. So he kind of like more intrigued, like, you know, never seen you before, you know, just an old creep doctor. But 9 times out of 10, Britt ended up persuading him. So she gave him this coupon where the patients can have 30-day refill. It's like very excessive, the amount of the coupons, right? Oxycontin is basically a Schedule 2 narcotics. Basically, that's what it is. It's like a Schedule 2. So Dr. Flowers and Dr. Coyle, they're traveling around because he failed his examination. So her thing is, because you failed it, you're gonna go with me to see the damage that is being caused by these manipulated numbers, these manipulated doctor visits, right? Especially the milligrams per customer is way past the limit for certain conditions for them, right? So Dr. Flowers, she's basically having, in real time, she's being interviewed basically. So she's telling how her and this doctor was going, finding different doctor's office that was, you know, promoting Oxycontin to their patients, which was hindering them because some of these patients were acting kind of crazy once they were on it. They call it withdrawals. One of the stories was they walked to a pharmacy and she's just telling basically how she didn't know anything about it until she saw this guy who came in. He was very abrasive and, you know, demanding for this drug. So he steps in and he's yelling at the doctor, and she's basically like, you know, get out. So she ended up pepper spraying him. He jumps the counter, starts fumbling through trying to find the Oxycontin because, you know, he's having withdrawals because it only lasts 12 hours once you take it. Once you're off 12 hours, then you go back pain again. You try to find something to help you get it off, right? So these are the things that she's seen that was flawed with it. So her thing was, it's being promoted, it's being produced, then it's being brought all the way to her county, which is in Virginia. And she seems to say like, everybody knew about this new drug but me. So she starts to see firsthand how bad it actually has a toll on the patients, right? So this time, it's time for Shannon to, you know, show her wits. You know, after Brittany's coaching her, you know, about walking these shoes, you never come empty-handed, always come with a gift, right? So Shannon is on this thing where she's basically like regurgitating all the information they told her to say. Once you're trying to promote something that they want you to sell, you have to sell it good. So she wasn't really selling it good to him. So his name is Dr. Cooper, and Dr. Cooper just was, seeing right through her, telling her what exactly is she selling, how uninformed she is with it, and he also calls her a drug dealer with a ponytail. So he curses her out, tell her what she's saying. You don't know what you're talking about. You're too young. Research with you don't know what you're doing. So she ends up storming off, flipping him off, and Brittany reassures her. Men always try to act like they know what they're talking about, but like I say, Brittany's just putting game on Shannon. That's all she's doing. She's just putting game on her. Like, stay in the game. Don't worry about what they say. Come harder next time. So Jackson, bro. Jackson is a family man. He got his family all in his business. Literally. He's outside trying to take a tire off of the car. So he just seemed like he's just doing anything to pass the time. Because, like I say, 12 hours is going to wear off. So he just keep looking over at the time, right? So he goes in, and his wife Liz, reassured, you still have 2 hours before you have to take it. So he really adamant, I don't really care. So because he's so adamant to have the pill every 12 hours, he revisits the doctor. So the doctor basically tell him, we're gonna up the dosage. His wife seemed like she's concerned, why wouldn't you just let him take what he's taking in a shorter period of time? She's like, he's not built like that. That's basically how it's built. It's built for you to last just 12 hours. Because that's what it's promoted to him to do. If you go in his office, you'll see that he have the card on his doctor board. So it's certified for him to sell Oxycontin. So he ended up writing him a prescription for 40 milligrams instead of 20. So he doubled the dosage within the 12-hour span. So he basically asks Jackson, aka Glenn, we would like your story to be told. So basically it's like a propaganda move. You've been taking this, you're a working man, you're a working family man, so we need you to validate this on camera, on a clear promotion commercial. So long story short, Jackson ended up doing, because once he got granted the pills, he basically saw a game. I could do whatever I want now. So as Jackson and arrives home, Ty is one of the sons. He's like an older son, and he's very observant. So you get to see firsthand how, Jackson is responding to these drugs, right? Clearly, Jackson already took this 40 milligram dosage. So he's basically on the couch, he's about to pass out. So Ty's observant. Ty is his stepson. So Ty basically wait for him to fall asleep, because I think he's know the pattern of how Jackson reacts to the Oxycontin once he take it. So once he go to sleep, he sneaks out, but he takes some of the pills, because he ended up meeting his friends in a junkyard or something, and he basically get the pills from him, and they brag about this is really good when you have sex, and they trying to peer pressure Ty to get one, but Ty know firsthand. I see how my stepdaddy be tripping on these, so I don't want to take that. Y'all do it. So that's basically how that scene ended. Shannon tries to go to resell. It wasn't Dr. Cooper that she went to the first time by herself. It was actually another doctor. This is actually Dr. Cooper. Dr. Cooper needed more convincing, so because she's taking Brittany's advice, she knows how to get game, right? So she basically connects his daughter's story, because she's a soccer player, I think, and she related it to how she used to play, and she's basically saying, the things that I've learned from being on the team helped me become who I am now, and helped me not take no for an answer. So that was the straw on the camel's back that pushed him to say, what, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start selling these here, without selling them, promoting them here. So she goes to give him the discounted coupons for the patients, right? So that's another doctor's office that Dr. Flowers is at, and she's actually examining the doctor's patients. So once Shannon leaves out, she basically goes back to the receptionist, asks, who is that, and what's her name. So once she get her name, she goes outside, and that's where the confrontation comes at. This is the first time she gets to check somebody close to the Oxycontin / Richard propaganda scheme that's trying to promote these Oxycontin to patients. So she basically asked, do you know what you're selling? Do you know what you're doing? You basically a drug dealer. Brittany comes in trying to intervene with it, threatening her, saying, I'll run you over with a car. And she's basically saying, what you gonna give me to treat it with my pain? The crack drug, Oxycontin. So basically, she checks them, like when I say check them, I mean like hold them accountable for what they're doing. So they speed off and they Porsche, because they getting paid to promote whatever they gotta do. They Mary Kay associates, basically. They selling everything, promoting everywhere on every corner. So one of the stops that Dr. Fall was stopped at was this doctor's office. So that's how they end up meeting each other for the first time. Jackson ends up doing the commercial, as I said, because he got his approval for his 40 milligrams. So after he got his promotion, he got to do his commercial. So they have this party, and everybody there, all the big names there, all the top sellers there. They showing the commercial to all the people, the patient's story. And it's the thing, they pulling at people's heartstrings just to get you to do something. They're showing you basically this hard-working man with a family was in pain, and he didn't, miraculously shook back because of this pill, right? So that's going to give people the thing, I have to take care of my family. I don't want to be at home. I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to be in pain. So they ended up clapping, cheering, and all that. So he gets home. So, before I get to that, Shannon ended up being a good seller. So she's seeing how it actually works for patients, because when she went to the other doctor, he was basically called her a drug dealer. But when she see the reinsurance, she's more like, okay, I believe what I'm doing is good, because she see Jackson's story. But she ended up being manipulated like most of us are. We see some good story and we believe it's going to be good for us for the long term. So when Jackson gets home with his family, he's going digging trying to find pills. Before he do it, he passing all this free stuff. We got free DVDs, free CDs, free all that, So he at this point where, I done did something to keep me busy today. It's time for me to take my pill again. Because I feel like everything Glenn does is to keep him busy so he can take his next pill. His next pill is not in the cabinet, it's not in the bathroom, it's not nowhere to be found. But he do remember from last episode, he ended up dropping a pill underneath the floor because he ended up passing out. He was like laying on the floor, and one of the pills ended up like rolling underneath the stove. He making his big frantic commotion, all of waking up people all in the house, saying, I still can't find my pill. So basically, he puts Ty in a position where, damn it, I have to give you the pills now because you acting so erratic. And it's taking a toll on it. So his mom is like, what these pills is that? They was in the bathroom on the side of the toilet. She was like, no, they wasn't. So they just hurry up and not even worry about it. We'll talk about this tomorrow. He already ended up taking his pills, so he good. But to see how he could just transform when he's not in his right state of mind, which is his own state of mind, those are the withdrawals that this drug had, because this drug is not perfect. It's not perfect. Nothing is perfect. Nothing is perfect that somebody's going to promote you. There's always some side effect or some fine line imprint in everything, right? Because these pills are not as promoted as they're supposed to be, Dr. Flowers is reiterating the story. So she takes us back to 1987, where Richard was actually doing trials for the pill on mice. So the mice didn't actually die, but they was like, I guess they was like in a state of trance. So his uncle, like I said, his uncle keeps popping up in his head, and he said they didn't die. That's basically like, if they didn't die, then we got a winner. So let's keep the promotion on. So what they do is they start doing trials in Puerto Rico, and they start doing women trials. I guess they was like after they was pregnant. I'm not sure the words they used, but they ended up getting like 1,000 volunteers. And because this trial was basically to see the trial and errors of the pill, you get to see how bad the withdrawals are, how bad these people transform. And because the pill didn't kill these patients, they considered it a win, but it was still a flawed pill because the people have panic attacks and they would start biting their teeth, they would have abdominal pain, they would start breaking out in trances trying to find the pill, just like the guy did when Dr. Flowers first seen the effect of these patients. It happened in 1987, but they still released it to the public and they still approved it by the FDA because the FDA is not a big corporation, they're a small corporation. And as I said, what Richard Sackler thing is, if I say it's true, most people gonna believe it. So that's his ideology now. Put it out there, approve it to the FDA, and they're gonna approve it because they don't really check nothing twice, even though they're supposed to. The FDA is Federal Drug Association, if I'm not mistaken. So they don't require supervision. They don't require trials and stuff until they meet Curtis Wright. Curtis Wright is one of the main people who trying to find, okay, these numbers ain't adding up. Basically, what y'all get, the information y'all give me is not sustainable for me to approve it. He would not approve it. So they went back to the board meetings and they panicking there because they can't get approved for the FDA. So before Oxycontin actually got free to the public, they had to go through these trials, right? So these are one of the arrows that they had to go through by getting approved. But Curtis didn't approve them. They would go and try to tell him everything, bring these doctors in to represent the Sackler stance on Oxycontin and how great it is, but they still kept denying it, right? So like I say, Arthur is one of the main influences in Richard Sackler's life. So Arthur keeps popping up in his head like, this is the way you do it. You tell a story with no roof. So you basically tell a story and you make it your own story, right? So that's basically what his technique is right now. So they're reevaluating, they're regoing, renegotiating. They say, you know what? We'll approach Dr. Curtis this time. We're going to tell him something, but we're going to manipulate it basically. So after all these trials and errors, they didn't get approved still. So that's when they start telling their truth. They start speaking facts. They start saying how, you know, we can let this pill go because we still have the financial gain of cancer. They basically were saying cancer is a crutch. They're using cancer crutch by financial gain for them, right? So they're going to give you pills enough to sustain you to live with cancer, but not actually cause you to die, which is the same thing they started doing with Oxycontin. But Oxycontin, the approval was not as easy as that was, if that makes sense. One thing that drives I don't know why I keep saying doctor. One thing that drives Mrs. Flowers to keep pursuing this case was because her brother actually ended up being in jail, right? So she goes to visit her brother, and she's one of the cool chicks, right? So she playing a video game, but she still has a family picture of her and her brother when they was young. Her brother's in jail, his name's Sean. So she goes to visit Sean, and it's kind of like something in the back of her mind that she really don't want to do, because the line of work that she do is basically holding people accountable for them putting drugs on the street, causing people and their family to dismantle. Because one thing they say is, it's not the drugs that help hurt the family, it's the drugs that hurt everybody around you. So you making decisions now, but it's affecting everybody around you. And that's what most addiction, any decision you make, it's gonna affect your family. It's not just gonna affect you. So he ended up telling, you know, sister, because they don't have a long relationship, because it's more to the story. But at this point, she's basically like, anything you want to tell mom, you just tell her happy birthday and I love her. So that's the backstory. That is why she's passionate about going to these different doctor's offices, checking the list and checking it twice to make sure that y'all not over indulging and giving people extra medicine. But she ended up finding out that's what some of these doctors do. They would prescribe people with breast implants. They would prescribe the recovery with so many milligrams to basically kill them. But it's like 12-hour increments, right? Okay, so Glenn ended up going out to dinner with his family. They're just on this commercial, so I guess they feel like, you know, they big in town, so they end up going out to eat. Ty's like, I want to have some decaf coffee. His mom like, nah, you ain't have no coffee. You need to go to sleep at night. So Jackson, he like staring into space, like, yeah, he can have coffee. He ended up biting the sandwich, but he ended up biting his hand. He bit his whole thumb, and it caused like probably like 2 or 3 tablespoons of blood dripping all in the mashed potatoes that he was eating. He didn't even realize he was biting his hand. So when he bit his hand, it actually showed me how unaware you are with your human movements. Like, you're not alert at all. He bites down on his thumb, causes blood. His family looking at him like he's crazy. He ended up passing out on the floor. He passes out and ended up going to the hospital. Richard, at the same time this is happening, Richard is driving to his house of confinement. He's going in this nice big mansion where the gates just open by itself, while Glenn, his patient, is being escorted to the doctor's office. This is like 2 different sides of the coin here. You got the rich and famous, and then you got people who suffer from the benefits and consequences from the decision they make because somebody told them that it's good. This episode is titled, Jesus Gave Me Water. Water is healing. Water is a natural, pure substance. Water is it's probably the only thing that's probably lasts longer than life in any existence of anything. We're made of water, all right? You don't need to be taking all these extra things sometimes. Sometimes you just need to be grateful with the things that God has given you, and that can be your medicine in itself. Speaking of water, I am in Louisiana, and we have something called a saltwater drought. And it's inflation. It's basically finna take over the water worlds right in the area of Louisiana where I'm at. Right, it's almost by New Orleans. So we on the water advisory. We gotta drink bottled waters. So this stuff just ties all into each other. I really thought I felt bad for, taking so long to do this video review for the 2nd episode, which I do feel bad. It's not gonna take a month for me to do a video. I just had to get some things together, you know what I'm saying? But Jesus gave me water. And I believe that with myself, because real time, that is what's really happening. We have to be mindful of things that's out there and, try to protect our family as best we can. So that is my episode review. It was episode 10 of Painkillers on Netflix. Alright, y'all. So thank y'all for watching this video. Sorry it took so long for the 2nd upload. I'll be back sooner than you think. Thanks for clicking on the video.